Well, hello and welcome back to Good Knit Kisses. I'm your host, Kristen, and today we are talking about the 10-stitch blanket and learning how to make this from the start, make all the corners, and learn different techniques of joining. I have the 10-stitch blanket here that I've been working on with one technique of joining, and then I have the twist started here and using a different technique in joining. So we're going to get started. If you want to grab any yarn and work along with me, grab a worsted weight yarn and a number 8 needle, a US 8, and we'll get started. You can use any size of yarn, any size of needle. Just make sure that they are appropriately matched up together. If you're not sure, just make a garter stitch sample and see if it's working up how you want to with 10 stitches. You're going to cast on 10 stitches and make 9 ridges. So we're going to get started. Hey, so I wanted to show you what we're setting up with. If you're catching me on the replay, of course, you can always pause, rewind, fast forward. I will try and go back after it's live, and I will put in the description notes or any comments where the timestamps are for you to be able to hop to the different spots. This is a live tutorial. If you are joining me live, you might see me mess up. I probably will. You know, that just happens. It's also, I get distracted when I'm reading the comments. So part of this will end up getting edited, hopefully, if everything goes well technology-wise. Sometimes I've had some of these tutorials not saved correctly. So sometimes I edit them and I put them on YouTube. So anyway, I'm glad you joined me today. This will get archived in the Wednesday day for tutorials. And if you're hopping on live, I'm going to say hi to you right now. I'm so glad you joined me today. If you're going to work with me, tell me that you are ready, and we'll work with our needles here. If you're watching on replay, you can feel free to comment along. I just won't be responding to you live because it will get archived. So if you are curious about my my broadcast on Mondays, I do Q&A, which could be personal and professional. And Tuesdays is loom knitting, Wednesday is needles or featuring yarn, Thursday is crochet, and Fridays is kind of a free-for-all. I may or may not do stuff. I'm usually about 8:30, 9 o'clock Central Standard Time. Monday through Thursday is when I broadcast. You'll have to Google that and look up when Central Standard Time is the time for you, and tune in about 8:30. If you're not sure, go to the page for Good Knit Kisses and click on the little bell or the see first. There should be a little bell icon to receive notifications, and your Facebook will light up and go, hey, Kristen's on live on Good Knit Kisses. So welcome, Chris. Hey, you're my first commenter. Hey, good morning, Chris Lopez. And Bridget Marie, good morning. Hey, Eileen and Lori. Dewan, hey. Let's see, Alice. Good morning, Amber. And let's see, Carol. Oh, Carol hopped on. She's supposed to be at an appointment with her hubby. I'm Sassy. You hopped on. Hi. Good morning. Okay, so we're gonna hop on here. I'm with my kids on vacation right now. That's why my days are kind of off on when I start. I was making pancakes, so it's winter break here, and so Mama was making pancakes for them, and I was like, get upstairs and watch a movie so I can do this. So, all right, well, we're going to get started. Let me flip the screen over, and we'll get started. Okay. Now, for a longer tutorial last week, I showed this pattern more in depth. I went through the entire thing, and actually, my battery kind of ended up running out, so I had to really stop, but I did go through the whole thing. I have this sample that I finished. I wanted you to see how big one Caron cake would work up in this size needle. The Caron cake calls for yeah, it's the same size that I used. It's a 5mm or a US, I'm sorry, 5mm or a US 8. And so that's what I'm working on. You can use DPNs, which are probably easier. I am in the middle of a move, and so all of my stuff is away, and I had 2 DPNs that I had set aside, and now I can't use them. So right now I'm going to switch back and forth. I have a cable needle holding stitches, but this is a 10-stitch twist, okay? And then this is the regular 10-stitch. And you'll notice that I use 2 different joining techniques on them, okay? So this joining technique is going to show the color that you just got finished on, and it works in the new color, and it kind of lays over to the side a little bit. There's actually a few different ways that you can join them. This just happened to be the way I joined this one, and then this other one works in some yarn overs and everything. Now I'm in the beginning of this 10-stitch twist, and so it's not laying quite flat just yet. I'm not there, but this one starts as a wedge, and you make a bunch of wedges, and then do the circle, and then you start out small and get bigger, and then it'll be a big circular. For the 10-stitch, the standard one, what happens is we're going to start off with 10 stitches, work our way to this point. That's the 9 ridges. So cast on 10, and then you're going to work on until you have 9 ridges of garter stitch. So that's actually 18 rows. We're going to work the first part of the corner and the second part of the corner, and then we're going to do it again. Okay? Then we're going to start picking up stitches along the side right here. We'll pick up the stitches, then we'll work one more corner right here, and then pick up stitches, and you'll be picking up the cast on edge. And then once you pick the cast on edge, the tail kind of stays at the back until you weave it in, which I have not done yet. And then we're going to put the next corner on, and then start picking up the stitches. And from there on, it just remains the same, where you're just picking up the side stitches everywhere. So anytime you come to the end, you start a new corner. Where do you stop? No one knows, because it's where you decide that your blanket is the size that you want it to be. This ended up working out to be an entire skein of Karen cake. Okay, the Karen cake is it's 80% acrylic, 20% wool. It is now the Karen cake is exclusive to Michael's right now. It's a limited edition. But there are plenty of worsted weights out there. This is a medium worsted weight. This particular one is telling me, let's see, it's 383 yards or 350 meters. So if you're looking for approximately that amount of yardage for a medium weight 4 that calls for a 5 millimeter needle here, almost said hook, a needle, then that's what you would go for. Okay, so this is about, I haven't measured it yet, but it's about 2.5 feet. So, so about that squared up. So my kids love it. They love these colors. This is what the back, this is what the front looks like. And then this is the reverse. Okay, you can see how the join is flatter here. And then you can see where my, this is where the beginning tail is. So this is where it was cast on and then works up. And then this tail will stay in here until I weave it in with this needle. Okay, so I'm going to get started casting on. If you need the pattern, I'm going to paste it right now in the comments. It will be under the name Kristen. Let's see, is it going to let me? Okay, it should show up as Kristen Mangus. It may not show up as Good Knit Kisses, so you're going to want to look for that. Okay, so what you'll do is you'll go visit that link, and it pulls up Ravelry. You're going to download the 10-stitch blanket. If you have an account with Ravelry, if you don't get one, it's a free account. You can add it to your library so that you can pull it up later. And then you also want to hit that download button. When you go to download, it actually has lots of different languages. So if you need it in a different language, it's really nice. Several people have translated it for Frankie. Frankie Brown has given me permission to do this tutorial, and you're going to want to save whatever one you want to your library. I'm working on the English one today. Here we go. Okay, I'm getting set up, moving my 10-stitch twist aside. Hold on. I'm using this other ball here. It looked like it was going to be orange, but it's actually going to be red. So I had to get to the end of that here. I'm going to start off with a slip knot. And we're going to cast on 10 stitches. Oops. We're going to do a long tail cast on, so I'm going to give it a little bit more. So you're going to put the tail toward you. That's how I do the cast on the long tail. I put the tail towards me and the ball to the back. And I grab that, put my finger through, and scoop up my yarn. We're going to scoop it up for my thumb, go down through this finger here, and then down here. In slow motion, that is. Grab your yarn with the tail towards you, the ball at the back, split it with your fingers like this. Pick up through this loop here, pull down through this loop here, and then down through this one here. Okay, so I'm going to pick up 10 stitches. I have slower versions of the long tail in other tutorial videos on YouTube as well as on Facebook. Okay, I'm starting a brand new blanket, Chris. I just had too many people who want to see it from the beginning, so I'm just going to go ahead and do that. If I need to do 2 parts of the video, I can do that to show picking it up later on. Okay. I didn't need that long of a tail, but I do. Let's just cut that a little bit. Okay. So if you're new to knitting, joining me today, when you make the knit stitch, you're going to go in between these 2 legs of the stitch. And I'm going to see if I can zoom in here. Look at that. I'm able to zoom in on Facebook Live. Isn't that awesome? Okay. Okay, to start your 10 stitch, you're going to, you've got your cast on 10 stitches. We're going to start knitting in the first stitch here, move around, pull it through, and make our first row of knit stitches. Turn. This is why double pointed needles will work really well. I just happen to have these circulars on me right now. So we're going to knit the next row. This is knit row 2. We're just doing a garter stitch, so it's knitting all stitches. Let me slow it down. If I do have a beginner here, I'll do it real slow here in a second. So we're going to go in through these first 2 stitches here, yarn over, pull through, and slide that off. What it does is it takes the yarn from over here, adds some yarn to make a stitch, and then you drop off the old, and then the new is on here. The old one is over this side. So I'm just going to go quicker in this tutorial here, assuming that you know how to do the knit stitch. If you already know how to wrap and turn, this will be easier for you. This blanket will be easier for you if you've already know how to wrap and turn. You need to know how to knit, wrap and turn, and slip stitches. But if you don't, I will show you. And I'll go slower on the corners. So I'm on my 3rd row. Starting row 4. I just do 5 and this is 6? Seven. Eight. So you're just going to keep going until you get the 9 ridges or 18 rows. And pause your video and come back. So for the live people watching me, I'm trying to mix having a live tutorial and one that I can edit later. So, and I might put information on the screen. So I'm sorry if I'm not saying everything I need to say. The long tail cast on is what is called for in the pattern. I actually went through it last week. And so if you need that, be sure and refer to it. I can try and get the link later. And add it to the description. What am I on? This is 10. Also, the pattern does call to slip the first stitch. I'm just not doing it on this first ridge round. You can do that, but I don't really think it's necessary. I'm gonna zoom out because I think I'm having a hard time staying on the camera here. Is this too far away for you guys, or is this fine? It's fine? Okay. I'm still going. So my cast on edge was here and my tail was on this side. So I knew that my first row was down here. And so, so that was my lower row back behind here. So underneath is 1, and then this would be 2. So this is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. And then I'm on the 11th row now because I know I'm on where my tail is on the right side. The pattern calls to knit purlwise. I mean, I'm slip the stitch purlwise on the front row. Actually, let me go back. Actually, I think it's knitwise. Okay, So in this pattern, I'm going to go here. Stuff you need to know. I'm going to kind of go back over this because just in case, because people are joining me that didn't join me last week. So things you need to know about this is throughout the pattern, she refers to ridges rather than rows. And then she says garter stitch is 2 knit rows. Where possible, outside first stitches are slipped knitwise to help with the joining. I haven't put this in the instructions as to simplify them, and it's not too disastrous if you forget. So I've decided just on this first part not to do that, but I'll show you what it looks like. I'll slip the rest of them knitwise, and you can see what part of this looks like with or without the slipping, okay? And then the 10 stitch strip is being knitted, is joined into the body of the knitting as you go along, thus avoiding any sewing up. This work is done by joining ridges. And then it actually talks about and spells out that you're going to knit 9 and then slip in the next stitch knitwise and pick up 1 and knit 1 from the stitch, and it tells you all about how to do that. I'm going to show you how to do that in this pattern. So it says feel free to experiment however you like, because you really can get different looks with this. Okay, so I'll go over on how to do that. And I did add the pattern link in the notes. Okay, so that's, we're going to slip it knitwise, which is, so if you want to slip knitwise, it's like this. If you slipped it purlwise, it is like this, okay? So I'm going to show you how it is in the pattern. I slip purlwise on all of these. I like to show it different ways in case you're like, what does it look like? So we'll do knitwise on the rest of this. This isn't a, this sample is just for myself, so it doesn't make too much of a difference, but it is important that you're consistent. I'm going to be inconsistent these first few rows because I want you to see what it looks like. Okay, this is just for teaching purposes. And I've done some sample blankets before, like I had done this loom knit blanket 10 stitch where it was just a sample, and it was a really nice small blanket for my daughter's American Girl doll. She really liked it. So I made one for my other daughter, and she uses it for her stuffed animals, which is really sweet. Slip, knit, you can make this with a yarn that is variegated or color changes or scraps. If you use scraps, of course, you're going to have a lot more yarn tails to weave in, but it's a really great way to use your scrap yarn. Of course, you want to stick with relatively the same weighted yarn, but you could sort your scraps, whoops. You could sort your scraps by weight, and then when you get ready to make this, you can just pull them all from the same bag. So if you like to keep that kind of thing, you can do it. I have a couple of jars that I like to throw them in, and then my kids actually use my scraps a lot. Okay, I'm getting close. Let's see. So this is, that was that first row, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. I think I'm on the last one here. Should have 9 ridges. 9. Okay. So just to go through it here. So this was my cast on, and then I have row 1, which are these knit stitches between. 2 is the purl row. 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 17 is that last knit row, and then 18 is this purl stitch that's hanging on here. So the purl stitch looks like these little scarves here, and I had worked that from the back side. So now I'm at my 18. Okay, so this is how the pattern reads. It says begin with the square. Using the long tail method, cast on 10 stitches, knit 9 ridges, 18 rows. The garter stitch is a square stitch, and that is to say 1 ridge is 1 stitch, so a 10 stitch square could consist of 10 ridges or 20 rows. But you only work 9 ridges here, as the cast on edge counts as the first ridge. So here we go. We've got our yarn tail on the right, and that's how we've got it here. We're going to the next page. Now we're going to work these double corners. So this is the corners that I was talking about in the beginning. If you're just joining me, we have to knit 2 corners together first, and then all the rest of them after that are just 1 corner. So I'm going to pick it back up like I'm like I'm working the my video that will be used for later. Excuse me, hold on. Excuse me. Okay, you finished your 9 ridges. You count up 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. We are at 18 rows or 9 ridges. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. The 9th is here, hanging up on here. We're going to begin, and we're going to slip all these stitches knitwise the first stitch here. Now, the way the pattern is written, it assumes you're going to slip the first one, so you'll have to read the very beginning of each row, kind of minus 1 number here. I'll point that out to you. Now, we're going to do these steps, and I'll show you, but where it says knit 9, knit 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, I'm actually going to slip that first stitch, so it's 1 less on the very beginning of these instructions here. And then it says this is made up of 4 steps for the double corner. Refer to notes above for how to work the short ridges, and remember each ridge is 2 rows. So on the previous page of this PDF is information on how to work the short ridges and everything. So I'm going to actually show you how to do that, and it's all about bringing your yarn forward and back. Now if you knit throwing, if you knit, excuse me, English style, then I'm going to work it that way. If you knit continental, moving the yarn back and forth will be easier for you, and of course your yarn is held to the back. So we're going to start working here on step 1 and make this first ridge. Okay, we're going to knit 9 and then wrap and turn and knit 9. So the wrap and turn is going to be on our 10th stitch. I'm going to slip this first stitch here and then knit 8, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and I have to wrap and turn. Okay, I'm going to put my yarn to the front, slip this stitch onto my needle, put the yarn in back, slip the stitch back onto my needle, put the yarn in the front again. What I've done is I've completely enveloped this yarn. I've completely wrapped this stitch with yarn. So if you look at it, there's this little round loop going all the way around. Okay, and then I'm going to turn my needles, turn my work over, so wrap and turn. So we've wrapped it, now we're turning, and we're just going to work to the end. It has a number on here, it says knit 9. That number is correct. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, we finished ridge 1. We're going to turn. So she's referring to ridges and not rows. So we're doing 2 rows at the same time. Okay, we're going to slip 1, knitwise again. It says knit 8, wrap and turn, knit 8. So we count this as your first stitch. So this is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, So this one right here is the one that's going to get wrapped, and then we won't work this one because we're going to turn, right? So wrap, we go to the front, lift that stitch off, go to the back, put that stitch back, put it to the front. I'm gonna start, yeah, to the front again, and then we're gonna turn, and I dropped my stitches, so I'm gonna hold these. That's the only thing about this, it can be a little fiddly. That's why I like the DPNs better, but today I'm working with circulars out of necessity. I don't have my DPNs with me. Okay, so we're gonna turn back and finish this ridge, and we're just knitting till the end. Now she has the pattern laid all out as knit and however many stitches, but once you wrap and turn, just remember just to knit to the end. Okay, that's the second one. If you notice, these look shortened here. It's going to gradually point at a 45-degree angle. Slip this first stitch, and now we're going to do 7. This is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, and then we've got wrap, pick that stitch up to the back, put it back, and grab that yarn forward again and turn. Okay, and knit to the end. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, I started. Okay, sorry, I was looking at something. Okay, this is for my live viewers. If you like this video and you want to save it for later, like you're not sure about being able to go back and find it on my channel, if you'll hit share, then it'll share to your wall, of course, and you'll be able to go back and see what you've shared. The instructions again, there is the pattern. I suggest that you pull the pattern up and save it. If you're just joining me, I'm seeing my numbers change on people watching live. So I just wanted you to know to go ahead and pull that up. And of course you can come back to this later and you'll be able to pause it. Right now, because it's a live video, I understand if you're trying to work with me, you won't be able to do that. But you might be able to play with whatever part of your sample that you're on and play with wrapping and turning. And then you can always frog it. It's only 10 stitches, right? Okay. So no, Chris, I did not find my DPN at the school. It got lost at the school. Nobody called me. If they found it, nobody called me. So it's frustrating with me moving because my supplies are gone. So they're all like being stored away right now. So it's really frustrating. But I do enjoy these needles. So these are Knitter's Pride if you're interested in what are these needles. Actually, I need to get me some Knitter's Pride DPNs. That would be nice. Okay, so here I go. We have knit to the end. We're on knit 6, we're on the ridge 4, so it's knit 6. We're going to slip 1 and yeah. Okay, we're going to slip 1 and knit. So it's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, and then I'm going to wrap and turn this one here and go back. So if you see, all we're doing is progressively narrowing down the amount of stitches. We'll get all the way down to where we have 1 left. So we knit to the end, and what I try and remember is I do -1 when I'm decreasing here. I do -1 on my way down. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then when I turn, I sit in my head, I'm like -1. And so without looking at the pattern, I know that I need to do 5. So I'm going to slip this first stitch and I'm going to knit 5. So that's 2, because remember this one counts as 1, 3, 4, 5. Wrap and turn. We're halfway. To finish the ridge, knit to the end. This is where I start my counting again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, minus 1, so we're at 4. And so you're just going to continue this method on down. 2, 3, 4, wrap and turn. 1, 2, 3, 4, minus 1, 1, 2, that's 3, wrap and turn. 1, 2, 3, minus 1, need 2, slip, 1, okay, so that's 1, 2, and this is 3, yeah, and I can tell if I get stuck, I can come over here and look and see this wrap that happened last time. So I have a wrap here, and I have a wrap here, and I have a wrap here, so I can tell, oh, I did that already, so I can go back and then wrap this one now. So if you get lost, just study your stitches and then turn around. And 1, 2, slip. Okay, this is the harder one. So I've got 1 on my needle here, and I want to do this last one here. We're going to wrap around, slip it back on, and then put it to the back again, turn it around, and we're just knitting 1 stitch, unless you can see back, knit backwards. Okay, so we've knitted that last stitch, and so this is my, these are my rows here. Okay, I'm gonna pause. Bye, Chris. I hope you have a great day. I see her taking off. Bridget, I saw your question. You said, when are you going to show the circle blanket? I did show a little bit of the beginning that I'm going to show the join on here. So I have a different join here where you can see the color coming through, and then this join is different, and so it really masks that. So I will show how to do that, but I won't be like showing how to do the twist blanket just yet. But I want to show you how to do the 2 different methods, and I'll do that in this video here. So you just have to stick around for when I get to that point. It'll take me a while, or just come back and later today, and that'll be taken care of. So let's see, we've got, okay. I hope it doesn't bother y'all. I've got to put a cough drop in because my mouth is getting really dry. Okay. If my cough drop is annoying and you can really tell, please tell me, because I'll just take it out. Okay. So I've got, let's look at their pattern. So I've got this whole thing done. It's on a 45 degree here. I've knit all the way to where I knit 1 and I wrapped and turned, right? And so I've knit that last one. Technically the first one is slipped, and then you wrap and turn, and then you knit 1. So you're actually dealing with 2 stitches here, okay? Notes, even if you're slipping the first stitch of, even if you're slipping the first stitch of every ridge I did, knit that stitch on ridge 9 when you're only working 1 stitch. Your needle should be at a 45 degree angle to your knitted square, and point diagonally towards the right. I can't even talk. Your needle should be at a 45 degree angle to your knitted square and point diagonally upwards and to the right. Okay? So that's what it's doing. It's diagonally upwards and to the right. Hi, Heather. I see you. you jumped in. Hi. Oh, you're staying, Bridget? Okay. I got to get this first corner and done, and then the second, and then we'll start joining. Okay. So now we're going to do step 2, and we're going to knit 2 and wrap and turn. So we're slipping 1 and knitting 1. We're only dealing with 3 stitches here. So we're going to slip 1 and knit 1. And then we're going to wrap and turn. If we tried to go backwards and do that second one, you might come back to me and say in a comment, oh, it built up funny. It's because if you tried to repeat backwards exactly, then you would wrap the stitch twice and then you'd have a little hole. So this is why we're slipping 1 and then knitting 1 and then going on to the 3. Okay, so it may seem like I'm missing that first step, but we're not. I just want to clear that up in case, you know, later you're like, why do I have this hole? Well, you may have wrapped it twice in a row without knowing it, and it might happen at any point in your blanket, and that might be the case. Okay, so we're going to knit to the end. 1, 2. So here's where I remember here. So let's see. We're going to slip 1 here, and we're going to knit 1, 2, and then we're going to wrap and turn. Okay. Okay. So we have 3 here. We're going to go 1, 2, 3. And then when we wrap and turn and we come back, we're going to slip. And if you want to, you're going to count different on this side if you want to do it this way. If it doesn't work for you, then you know, I'll try and tell you a different way. But once I set on the back side 1, 2, 3. So now if I slip 1 and don't count that, and I just go 1, 2, 3, I have this nice gap here, and that last one I knit is a little bit tighter. But if I had counted 1, 2, 3 here, now this is actually where my wrap and turn is. So on the way back, I find that on the way back easier because I'm just counting as I go back. So on the back side, whatever the number is, I repeat on the front side. I'm just not counting the slip on that one. So I go 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, see how it's 1 more? So we'll go back now. Slip that stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, and wrap and turn. Same method, we're just going opposite. Now we're increasing stitches is what we're doing because we're working the wrap stitch that we had done that previous. Okay, so we're on our way back here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. By this point, you should start seeing that corner develop and this diagonal coming in. Can you see see if you can see the yellow behind it? You see that corner coming? Okay. So I just did 5. Still slipping that first stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is my 5th one, and I just want to show you kind of close up here. You can see that this was wrapped previous year, okay? And so you can tell when you go into it. Oh, I'm just out of frame. I'm so sorry. You can tell when you go into it, it's a little bit tighter, but you may or may not be able to tell right off the bat until you've done several of them. But now once I knit that, I've got this nice little gap, and I'm going to put my yarn in to wrap and turn. And we're going to come back. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's growing by 1 every time. I'm getting that corner coming out really nicely now. Slip 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Wrap and turn. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hello? White House? You want me to come decorate for Christmas? Oh, this telephone. Sorry. You want me to come make a national knitting initiative in all schools? Yes. Okay. Well, while I'm waiting. Okay, good. It stopped ringing. I'm going to examine here from the back here and show you where I had done a wrap and turn and what this looks like. So the wrap and turn is really close here. See how these stitches kind of look like a little V? They're very close. And then these look very even, or pretty even, except for that last one. So they're pretty well even, but these make this little V, and then there's a gap. That's where my last wrap was. So if you put this down, you're like, I don't know what happened. First of all, I would encourage you to kind of get to the end of the row here, and stop. Don't stop in the middle of this. But if you aren't sure, find that last wrap and turn. See, am I increasing, or am I decreasing, or am I increasing? Which side am I on? And so know that this is my wrapped one, so I'm counting from here. I would go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And so that next time now I know where I need to be. The next time I go around, I'm going to slip 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's that wrap. Now I'm going to wrap again. 8. The 8th one is wrapped. Well, actually, that's the 9th one is wrapped because the first is slipped. Okay, knit to the end. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, what did I do? Oh. I dropped a stitch and I'm trying to knit in that stitch. There we go. Ha! I fixed that like a boss. That was good. I didn't explain it while I did it, but at least you saw me do it. Okay. So now we have, yeah, we've got, let's go back. So we've got, yeah, 8 to do. Slip. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Slip. I'm sorry, wrap and turn. On that 9th one. Sorry. Let me go back. I got distracted. I was looking at y'all's comments. Hold on. Okay, so what did I do? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 7. Sorry, I've got myself really distracted here. Okay. There's that last wrap and turn. And then now we're going to wrap and turn. So I've got this last one here. And I didn't wrap to the front again, so that's what happens. If you wrap it to the back and then turn it, you're going to have to make sure that it goes all the way around when you come back. And so we're going to do the 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so now we have a corner, right? Our corner looks like this. Put this down. Okay, this is our corner. We have the beginning that we started on, and then you can tell how, like, remember when I started slipping the stitches? I want you to see how the stitches change. So see how this is a little bit thinner looking than the side here. This is a little bulky looking, so it's going to be less bulky for joining later. Can you tell the difference where it jogs out here? See that? That's because these were slipped and these weren't. Okay, so this is the difference that slipping makes. It'll be easier to see your stitches when you want to pick them up from the side here. Okay, and you'll understand what I mean when we start joining. Okay, so now we're going to go on. I've done this whole second page here, and we're going to go to step 3. Okay, you now knit a square on top of your original square with a diagonal line marking across it. Your needle will be pointing straight up, which it is, straight up. And we're going to work on ridge 3. We're going to basically do the same as we did over here. We're just going to do it all again and work our way around, and then we'll start joining. So if you're comfortable with it, want to work one more corner and then meet me back up. Otherwise, I'm going to work on it here again. Okay, slipped 1, 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, wrap and turn. I'm going to go back. 2, 3, 4, 6. Okay, you're hearing my family on my live. My live viewers are hearing my family scurry around upstairs. Three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so we did the 8 and wrap and turn because this was wrap last time. Four, 5, 6. Yeah, and if you want to share this video, then it'll be in your wall, so you'll be able to see it later. Or you can come back and this will be in a playlist. Oh. Three, 4, 5. Pausing for airplane. Okay, so I want to show you when you're headed back on the decrease row, you can see where I had wrapped these and how it's like a nice big spacing. And then I had wrapped this one and it still has a nice big spacing, but see how these two are close to each other? That's where I need to wrap. It needs to have that space, right? So that's why I can look for that and then stop short. You'll start noticing that. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this stitch. When I place it back on here, you'll see how now it has an even amount. You see how it's even? Okay, well, that's slightly bigger, but it's because it's being pulled by this is the corner stitch. So this will be slightly further away. All right, so I'm going to put my yarn to the back again, or the front again, turn. The instructions, actually, if I go back here, I think the instructions have you just leave it that way and then you turn, but I like to do it all when I'm on that side. Okay, so now I'm going to work to the end. Okay, so see how those are not spaced up. And then wrap and turn and go to the back. And knit to the end. I'm pausing my video. For the live viewers, I'm working on size US 8 needle, 5mm, and I'm working on a worsted weight number 4 yarn. This is a Karen Cake yarn. You can use any yarn that you want and the appropriate needle to go with it. Slipping that. 2, 3, 4. Wrap and turn this 5th one, so I'm halfway. One, 2, 3, 4. Minus the 1, so we're going to do 3 on this side. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. One, 2, 3. So we're going to do 2 on this side. The first one is the slip stitch. The second one is the knit, and then we wrap. Work to the end, that's 1, 2. Okay, and then we're going to wrap this last one. Okay, so I've knit that last stitch. I'm pausing. Amanda Hall, yes. Michael's is exclusive to having the Karen cakes. It was a special 100-year anniversary, and they made that exclusively for Michael's. If you want an alternate, you can get at Joann's or online. Premier Yarns make something called Sweet Rolls. It does not have the wool content that this one does have, although it's nice and squishy soft, but it has a long color changing yarn. They do have different colors, and they are a different brand completely. And of course, there's lots of color changing yarns out there, so check them all out. Okay. I've got footsteps going on. Hey, can you guys shut the door, please? Sorry. My kids are stomping around upstairs. Okay, so I'm going to start on this last ridge. So we've got our first leg, the first corner, half of the second corner. We're almost done, nearly there. This is where we are, da-da-da-da, and we're on step 4 of your pattern. So we're going to knit 2 and wrap and turn. Slip 1, that's counting as the first knit, that's the second knit. Okay, and then we're going to wrap and turn. Continue on. One, 2. Slip 1, 1, 2, get working on the way back. 1, 2, 3. So on this return row, I'm not really counting that slip 1 when I'm counting my stitches. So I just work 3. So this is 1, 2, 3, wrap and turn. There's going to be a big giant hole. Okay, you see how these are all even? There's going to be this big giant gap. Okay, so wrap and turn that. And on your way back, that's when you're going to count what you want to repeat on the next side. So I'm counting, then I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4. And so on this side, I'm going to slip this one, and then I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and then I do my gap, and so see how it's nice and big here again. I'm going to do my wrap and the gap. And pausing my video.
Okay.
Please go back upstairs, honey. I understand, but I'm using it right now. Look over there. I have my son with me. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Go plug it in, please. Slip 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We knit to the gap and we wrap. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Turn. Slip. Knit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Knit to the gap and wrap. See the gap? You'll see that my other color is coming through now. I didn't have to change color because it's this long changing color yarn. This is changing color faster than it did in my first sample. Okay, this should be my gap. Yeah. Five, 6, 7, gap, wrap. Nearly done. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Wrap. Woohoo! Almost done. Okay, right here at the end. This is the last one, and then we'll move on to the join. Okay, this is the last one. Do this just how we did in the beginning, wrapping, turning, knitting to the end. This is the only time that you will make 2 corners at the same time in this pattern. That is the most complicated part of this pattern. Once you know how to do a corner and join, you pretty much got it, and you don't really need to count after we do this part here. We're just going to join all these ridges here, and then you don't really need to continue counting. So we now have this major part done. I'm going to show you on the pattern what that looks like. I'm on page 5. It said you now have knitted 2 squares on top of your original square, and your needle will be horizontal and pointing to the left. Well, it's pointing to the left now. Okay. That's the only time that you need to work a double corner. From now on, it's all single, like I was just saying. Now, it talks in here about joining ridges. If you want to join ridges in different ways, you can experiment on samples. You could experiment on these 9 ridges here, and if you don't like it, you could frog back, you could frog back those ridges and go backwards, and then try a different join method. That was a good, nice, short trial area to see what it looks like, and if you don't like it, just kind of continue going until you get the join that you like. So I'm going to show you a couple of different join methods here. Okay. Oh, Lori. Okay, she's already left, but hopefully she'll catch me on the replay. Y'all, is me having a cough drop in my mouth rolling around? Is that bothersome? I needed it because I needed to wet my throat here. Excuse me. Okay. The next thing we do is join them. If you look closely at this corner, there are several bumps in here, and so we're going to want to go right in the middle here. Okay, we're going to be going right in here like this. Okay. Not to you, Amanda? Oh, good. Okay. Hi. Okay. Oh, let me turn this thing off. My iPad was making noises. Not right now, honey. No. Okay. Okay. So the next thing you do is work the 10 joining ridges down the side of your original square, and this is when you choose the join. The original simple join gives a raised edge on the right, and the chain join gives a raised stitch edge. Both are smooth. The chain join is, you're going to do that here. I'll show you in a second. I'm going to knit to the spot where I need to join. So we're going to slip this one, and then we're going to knit until we have 1 stitch. All your outside stitches will be on the outside of where the inside corners are. This is considered the outside. So you're always going to slip that first stitch and then knit inward. So slip knitwise and then knit inward. Okay. So I have 1 stitch here. Okay. And then, so you're going to, the chain join is slip 1 stitch knitwise like this, and then bring the yarn forward as if to purl. Okay, and then you're going to pick one up and knit 1 stitch. So we go into this stitch here. Okay, whoops. So I've got stitches here. I want to go into this corner stitch here, and then I'm going to yarn over and pull it through. That's how I pick up a stitch. Okay, so if you don't know how to pick up a stitch, that's what you're doing. You're literally making a stitch through your other ones. So we're picking that one up, and then we're pass both stitches, 1, 2, over. So that's the yarn front that you did, and then the other stitch, and we slip them over each other. I'm sorry, I had an alarm ring. Oh gosh. Okay, so that's how we work that one, and then you're going to turn and then slip the first stitch purlwise. And what I like to do is I hold the yarn up between these 2 stitches, and I slip it purlwise, and then I just slip that right to the back, and then start working my stitches all the way down. Okay. So I'm going to work it, that row. Turn. Slip the stitch and knit until we have 1 left. Okay, so this one is you can slip the stitch knitwise and then yarn front, and then we'll do that. But I'm going to show you if you slipped it purlwise. So you can also slip it purlwise, it's just this way, and then yarn front, and then go and pick up that next stitch here. So I have a stitch in here, and I have the stitch in this corner here, and pick that up, okay, and knit those over. Both of them over. You're passing them over, okay? But see how it's made a gap here? So I've gone too far in, okay? So once you've done one corner stitch, which is what I did before, you're gonna bypass it. And that's another reason why I really wanted to show you, is because I've got one corner stitch, so if I'm pulling out too much in the corner, it's showing me that. But the way I fix it is I just go back and I can slip this on here like this, okay? And I know that I've got it in the right positioning, and I know that I had slipped it this way, okay? Anyway, so that's how I know how to pick that back up. So I've got my yarn that's still hanging on this second stitch from the last. I've slipped this over the way I want to, but now instead of going here in this gap, I'm actually going to skip over. I'm going to skip over here and go in between these two stitches. So if I pull it out, you can see, sorry, here we go. If I pull it out, you can see where I'm going to grab from. And I make sure I've got these two stitches right here. I'm going to yarn over and pull it through. And if I went like this and did it that way, I'm actually going to be doing a different technique, and where I will see the stitch this way. But if I add an extra yarn, okay, hang on. Okay, if I add this yarn front and then I pick it up, then it hides that stitch. So this is what I'm doing here. So if I have the extra yarn front and I knit over, it makes it look like this. If I don't yarn front, it looks like this. Okay, so I'm going to show you what this looks like here by going back and forth a few times, and then I'll show you the other one, how it looks. And then you can decide which works best for you. So once I've done that, I go to the back side and I slip purlwise, just sliding it right over, and make that yarn go to the back. Okay, and then work that. I find that when I move my yarn to the back, that way it's less fiddly, and my stitch is easier to manage when I slide it over. When I've got circulars in my hand. Okay. So I'm going to knit another row with the yarn front, and then I'll do a few rows with the other method that doesn't have the yarn front. And you'll be able to see what difference it makes. So slip that stitch, yarn front, go in between these two stitches here. See this ridge? And then this side part. Stick my needle straight in through here, yarn over, pull it through. Okay, I pick that stitch up. Make sure you haven't grabbed any of this other yarn here. And then knit it over. Okay, it's making a chain along here. I'm going to slip this stitch, put the yarn to the back, and then knit. So I'm putting the yarn to the back between the first and second stitch. I'm not going around that first stitch to the right. I'm going between the two. Knit till you have one stitch. So I have this stitch here. I'm just going to slip it and pick up a stitch, pull it through, and then yarn over. I'm sorry, and knit over here. You're slipping that past that slip stitch over here, and then it has that chain effect. Get some more yarn, hold on. Okay. Knit to the end. Eight, 9, and then the 10, slip, pick up, slip that stitch over, and continue. Oh, I should have messed with my cord. Knit 9, slip that stitch, pick one up. You're going in between the ridges. Pull it up, knit over, okay. And work back. I'm gonna pause just for a minute. My God, I'm gonna chew. Sorry, I was getting to the end. I'm looking for something on my computer, on my iPad. Just 1 second. Okay, hold on. I thought it was going to tell me something different. Okay, so you can also knit on your way back. You can knit all of them, and it does something entirely different, but I'm not doing that. So this is what the join looks like. I'm getting a little bit of that yarn in here. I think because I had slipped purlwise on my last one, it actually showed it more, and that's why it's more pronounced on this one. This one, the join looks like this. So this is where I was joining and adding in that extra yarn over, and so you can't see any of the red from the other side. This particular one, you can see that red kind of creeping forward on the side. And so the way to hide it, if you don't like that showing through, then you're going to want to slip this, yarn front, pick up your stitch from the side, pull it, and then take these 2 stitches and pass them over that last stitch, and then that will hide that extra yarn from showing on the side. See that? Here's a way to compare. So that's what I'm doing on this one. See where you're not seeing, the original is orange, you would see orange on this side protruding through, and you're not on here. So you just continue along and continue picking those up. Again, remember to slip this stitch. You can knit all the stitches and not slip that one, and it will have a different look. The main thing is to just be consistent in what you're choosing and make yourself a small little blanket, you know, a small little sample, and see if you like it. It can be as small as this. Of course, you have to get past those 2 corners in order to do it. But if you need to frog back to this area, you really haven't risked much of anything. I'm going to keep going. It's only showing a little bit here, but I'll just keep this blanket going even though I'm going to change my technique up just because it's not showing through that bad. And so you repeat those and then go until you are at the end of a row and bind off, and that's how you end your blanket. Oh, can I explain? I'm sorry. Can I explain that slip without seeing the other color again? Yeah. Hey, Crystal. Hello. She was making cookies and didn't get on here sooner. That looks lovely. Yes, Batya? Yes, I can explain the stitch without slip without seeing the other color. Yes, I'm actually doing that right now. So let me just come back here. So this is, okay. So when you slip one and knit until you have 1 stitch remaining, you're going to just slip that on over. Okay, you can do it knitwise or purlwise. I'm doing it purlwise. I like how it lines up. And then we're going to just go right in here and pick up this stitch, But before we do, to hide, you're going to add more color of the new color to hide the old color, right? So think about it that way. This is going to cover up on this side. It'll actually move it onto this side, and it covers up that color that could peek through. So we just put our yarn to the front after we slip it, pick up, so slip, yarn front, pick up, and then work these two over, knit them over that last stitch. So it's a slipped over the top. And so that extra, there's gonna have extra yarn of the new color cover up the old. Did that help? I'm sorry, I have had multiple alarms come out at me. I have someone who's on Facebook trying to tell me that she's upset and she doesn't want to screw up her blanket and needs help. I'm like, I have a live tutorial going on right now. Like, stop working on it. So anyway, yeah. Okay, so I've come to the end of this. Now you can see how it's made a U shape here. See how slipping the stitches without putting a yarn front has made this yarn creep out from the color one. So the first color is peeking through on this side. I did an extra yarn front on these two stitches here, so it hides it, and I've done a yarn front on these couple of stitches here, and it's hiding it. So I just wanted you to see the difference, and it kind of bumps up. See how it bumps up like that? And so I'm going to continue on doing that and doing this. The end here, like let's say you wanted to stop on a blanket, this would be a part to stop. Although it doesn't make sense with having this corner here, yes, but what you want to do is you don't want to make a corner and then stop, or you're going to have a jagged blanket. So what you will do is you'll make a corner, go all the way to the end of something and stop your blanket, or then you can continue making another corner and pick up and stop your blanket at the end. So wherever you decide to stop it, you're going to go the end of one corner, the end of the previous corner here, and then stop and bind off. Just bind off loosely those last few stitches and weave in your ends. And that's really how you finish it off. So for my live viewers, do y'all want me to make one more corner and then end this tutorial, or do you want me to show you binding off and weaving in? Does anybody need me to make a corner again? Make a corner again, Elizabeth says. Seeing how much time I have. Anyone else? Okay. Sorry, I got little feet running around. Okay, so let me go ahead. Elizabeth's just asking, but that's okay. I'm gonna go ahead and do it for Elizabeth. So Elizabeth, the corner is just a bunch of the wrap and turns, and then we will we'll bind off. I'm actually debating on if I should just go ahead and show y'all how to bind it off and then show you how to weave in and then come back and make the corner. Oh, Batya wants the corner too. Okay. All right, so this is the corner. Okay. You come to the end of your work and you want to make one more singular corner. We're going to work one more corner and then continue. I'll show you how to bind off and weave in your ends. Slip the stitch. Work it until you have one stitch left. You're going to wrap and turn. So we're going to Bring the yarn forward, slip the stitch onto your needle, bring the yarn to the back, slip the stitch back onto your needle, put the yarn to the front, turn your work. Work to the end. You've just wrapped one. So if you can remember, I wrapped one, I wrapped one. And when you turn it, just say wrap two. You know, this is just a different way of remembering than I was speaking on earlier. So I just say wrap two in my head. So that means you're wrapping the second one from the end. This is a pretty steady decrease. Okay, so I'm at the end. I've got 2 stitches left. I'm going to yarn forward, pick it up, yarn to the back, pick it up, yarn to the front, turn. Work to the end of the row. We're working to the outside now. The inside is where all the wraps get. The inside means the inside corners of the blankets. So you can say in your head, your mantra is, I just did 2, I just did 2. You turn it around and say, do number 3. Whatever you need to say to remember it, or mark your paper, or whatever you need. It's good if you think you're going to have to put it down in the corners, then you're going to need to mark something to tell you that you are where you are in your work. I suggest finishing your corners before you put your work down, and that way you're ready to pick up on the next row. So also another way to see it is if I've already wrapped a few, I can see that these have a spacing here and these don't. They're really close, right? So we need to create that gap by yarn forward, pick up the stitch, yarn to the back, pick up the stitch, yarn to the front, turn it. I'm just going to continue working this way. I'm not really going to talk. And then I'll work the second part of the corner. Okay, the part 1 is done. Slip 1, knit 1, wrap and turn. Knit 2, 1, 2. Slip, knit 3, knit 2, 1, 2, wrap and turn. Okay, so on my way back, I'm counting how many I'm doing. 1, 2, 3. I'm not counting this one here, this first one. So I slip it, and I'm counting 1, 2, 3. I'm just repeating the number that I just did on that wrong side row, or you can knit to the gap. And you see this big giant gap. Okay. Wrap and turn. What's happening is I'm wrapping this one, okay, and then I'm turning it, and I'm knitting to the end, but when I come back, I am knitting the one I just wrapped. So that just wrapped one is a little bit tighter. Okay. There's that gap. Slip 1. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to do 5 here. Slip. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wrap and turn. So I'm just demonstrating the short rows that are written in the pattern as Frankie has spelled out. Frankie had given me permission to teach how to do this. There are different methods of wrapping and turning as long as you're shaping, because short rows are really about shaping. So if you have a preferred method of short rows, then by all means do that. As long as you're consistent in your knitting, you know, it's fine. You know, you just want to knit at the same ratio. Meaning this is, I'm doing one, I'm shaping it 1 stitch at a time, decreasing, and then 1 stitch at a time, increasing across it. Did I do that one last time? No, I didn't. I was busy reading the comment from Bethany. Thanks, Bethany. Yeah, that's why I needed to not read. I just want to get through it. Okay, this is how I'm going backwards. Okay, now I'm going to wrap this one. Bethany, have you made the twist? Okay, we're almost done with this corner, and then we'll connect the cast on edge. Okay, so this is what it's going to look like when you've got your corner done, and then you're just, all of the rest is going to look like this. You come to the end, you make a corner, you join, make a corner, join, make a corner, join. So every time you're at a new corner, you make the decision, am I going to make a new corner, or am I going to finish my project? So let's pick these up again on the edge. Knitting one to the end. Okay, slip the stitch. You can you can do it knitwise or purlwise, and you're going to go into that corner there and pick up the stitch and pull it on through and move the slip stitch and the yarn front over, and where it binds those off, and it locks in that corner. And then now we're going to turn and work back. Okay. Okay, so now we're on the, we've done the corner, And then we want to pick up these stitches here. So we're just going to go in between these stitches and pick up, and where do we have these 2 chains on here, and slip that through and pick it up. And I forgot to yarn forward, so hold on. Yarn forward, pick those up, pick up the stitch, and then pass the stitches over. Okay, and then it's going to start turning here for you. It's really the same thing over and over. I've repeated several of these steps. I'm just making the tutorial longer because this is really, it's unedited. It's just live. So I'll have to edit this video and put it up on YouTube. I'll come back and do a timestamp, unless someone wants to help me and say timestamp, and then write the timestamp for me, and then I can, we'll have it easily, and I can write it all together in the description. That would be really helpful if someone was able to help me with that today. I would super appreciate it. Otherwise, I'll have to come back and do it. The steps for binding off are just as normal. You're just going to do a standard bind off. Don't get too excited and get super tight with it. And you will, I'll show you binding that off. But now you can see the corner, how the corner is joined. And look at that. So you've made your corner. You're just going to continue on until you get to the end of where you want to stop, and then bind off. When you bind off, you're going to do it on a right side row, unless you've got to where you're at the end and you think that you're going to go too far, and then you can bind off in this direction, in which case you would knit the first 2 stitches as normal, and then bind off one by lifting it over, and then continue going. And that last one, you just pull it all the way through when you cut your yarn. And I'll show you how to bind off, even though it'll be an awkward bind off here. It's not how you would want to bind off, but for tutorial purposes, we're going to bind off a little early. Okay, so let's say I'm at the end of my row and I want to bind off. I'm going to knit this stitch, knit the second stitch. We're going to pass that slip stitch over. Okay, knit the second stitch, pass that slip stitch over, knit the next stitch, pass that stitch over, knit the next stitch, pass it over. Okay, so where you're getting this nice bind off here, and then you would just continue until the end. And when you have one left on your needle, you just pull it on through. You're going to clip it and then pull it on through, and then you'll have a tail, which will look like this. Okay, so this one I have bounded off, and I had that last stitch here, and then we can go ahead and weave in our tail here. Sorry, waiting on footsteps. So this is the end here, and I'm going to go ahead and pass it through and connect it fully with this next panel. And I'm going to match up this stitch here. I'm making sure that that join is makes another stitch here, and it's a nice good connection point. It doesn't have a gap. And then once that I do that, I'm gonna work it into these stitches and go down and go to the back here. And then we're gonna work in to our stitches here by going along and matching our patterning. Or stitches in the back. You can also work, you know, some people like to work it in through all these stitches and pull it through. That's another way to hide it. I don't necessarily like doing it that way. I like trying to go along with the stitches. Oops. Go around and match the stitches. So this is kind of that, got that U shape on it. And then I can go back through here and go around and kind of match my stitch pattern. And then when I'm ready, I'll clip that, and that one's done. And then we have one more to do, which is this cast on. Okay. And then we're just gonna follow, oops. Let's see if I can zoom in a little bit more. And follow that patterning there. And another way you can do it, like I said, is you can go through the back of these. Other people, sometimes I see people who like to go through diagonal and hide it. There's different ways to do it. A really good way to do it is to make sure that you go back on your stitches and kind of lock them in. Even splitting the yarn in between. And so that way when it gets washed, it doesn't actually come out. Okay. And then clip your stitch. And you are done with that blanket. And this is what it looks like here. This is one where I wasn't hiding the side with doing the yarn front. And then of course this one here is the twist pattern. Okay, so this is a 10-stitch twist that starts in a circle instead of making that little square. Okay, and then so Frankie Brown has all of these patterns and more working with 10 stitches. And I can show this one another day. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that you have enjoyed this tutorial. If you liked it, please share. And of course you can subscribe, and you can join me any day where I am doing multiple tutorials or just chatting about stitches. Tuesday is loom knitting, Wednesday is knitting with needles, and Thursday is crochet. Monday is a Q&A general day. And anyway, thanks for joining me for the 10-stitch tutorial. I hope you have a great day. Yes, she does have a zigzag one too. There's lots of them. There are also some crochet and Tunisian ones that people have done. Someone just wrote me the other day and was asking me about doing a pattern that is, there's a crochet one that goes around and around and like the regular 10-stitch, and then she's making a twist version. So I thought that was really cool. She needed help writing the pattern, so we're kind of talking about getting started on something like that, which is getting permission from Frankie and then talking to the other person who had written a crochet regular one. And so it's good to talk to those people and say, hey, by the way, do you mind if I'm writing this, and get permission? So like I have permission. So a big thank you to Frankie Brown for allowing me to teach this to you today. Please visit her pattern. She talks about the charity that she doesn't take any money for her patterns, but she has a charity that she enjoys giving to. And if you'd like to give in her name, she's raised raised lots over the years, so be sure to check that out. I hope you have a great day, and happy knitting and crochet. We'll see you.